Well, in the news of this week, I have a story that is so incredible. It's like an episode from Dr. Phil, Murder and Mystery Analysis by Dr. Phil. I don't know if you listen to that podcast. If you don't, you should. But this story is incredible. So, at a Jack in the Box, which is a fast food restaurant in Texas, an incident occurred around 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and the video has just been released by Discovery, where there was a family. A man had collected his wife from the airport, pregnant wife. She's around 6, 7 months pregnant. With their young child in the car who's like 5 or 6 years old. They go to this Jack in the Box. There's an argument over curly fries, and the member of staff pulls out a firearm and discharges 2 rounds into the vehicle. I mean, you could not make this up. It is an incredible, incredible story. Like I said, the video has just been released by Discovery during a lawsuit. So I want to play the video. I want to come back and share some observations. So be prepared to be amazed. This is incredible.
Shot at over an argument about curly fries. That's the allegation in a lawsuit filed against Jack in the Box and an employee. The shooting happened in 2021. The attorney for the family who was just shot at just released a shocking video. ABC 13's Jessica Willey is live at the restaurant where it all happened. Jessica.
Eric, attorney Randall Callanan has scheduled a news conference for tomorrow morning here at the Jack in the Box near Bush Airport. He tells me he recently got this video through a discovery request. The employee has already served her sentence, but in a lawsuit filed by that family from Florida, they say they want to still hold the restaurant accountable. The order, a number 2 with curly fries, after a mother and her 6-year-old daughter landed in Houston. The father picked them up, placed the order at this Jack in the Box on JFK Boulevard near Bush Airport. 15 minutes later, they were speeding out of the drive-thru, trying to avoid gunfire. In just released video, employee Alania Ford seems agitated with customer Anthony Ramos. He is in the driver's seat, according to a lawsuit. His pregnant wife is in the passenger seat, and their 6-year-old daughter is in the back. They paid $12.99 for a combo, the lawsuit says, but didn't get the curly fries they ordered. Not even halfway into the dispute, the video shows Ford ready a gun. Minutes later, and with another employee, she throws ice and condiments through the window before firing at least twice at the family. Ford was initially charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, but pleaded guilty to a lesser charge of deadly conduct, got 1 year deferred adjudication, and completed it, court records show, in June. The family from Florida filed the lawsuit after the guilty plea, claiming Jack in the Box was negligent for not keeping customers safe.
Like I said, I mean, you couldn't make that up, could you? You could not make that story up. But there's some interesting things in there. And one is about behavior threat assessment. We saw some indicators even before she pulls out her firearm. And I think if you asked her co-workers, perhaps even her boss, they would say that there was signs of aggression. There was this pathway to violence. And I think if you go back probably 8, 10 years, it could even be more than a decade. We used to say, well, this person just snapped and we don't know why Simon did this. But in today's world, we commonly understand that there is a pathway to violence and there are human behaviors that indicate future behavior. So what we do in the past is incredibly important in threat assessment. So she didn't look like she had a holster, so the gun was being sort of kept in the back of her pants there. So staff must have known she was carrying it. I say that because it looks so obvious as to how quickly she drew it out. Like I said, I don't believe she was wearing a holster looking at that video. So that was my first observation, is there's always a pathway to violence. And what did her co-workers, what did her manager, what behavior had happened before this event? So there is always a pathway to violence. People don't snap. Now, last year, I wrote an Amazon bestseller, and I don't think I've got a copy here. Actually, yes, I do have a copy here. An author is never far from his book. So my Amazon bestseller, 10 Powerful Strategies for Conflict De-Escalation, I shared a story in there about this, that I fully accept that the family were incredibly justified in bringing this lawsuit against this woman and against the Jack in the Box. But I wrote about this in my book, that sometimes in de-escalation, we look like there has to be a winner or a loser. And there was a time, I remember I was at a gas station one time, and there was someone that I'm not too sure if they were intoxicated, had mental illness, or were they just aggressive. But they started shouting at me that I was doing something wrong, and I've done nothing wrong at all. But in that moment, I apologized to that person and said, "My bad. I'm clearly agitating you. Sorry that I've offended you in some way. My bad." And I walked away, because in de-escalation, there doesn't have to be a winner or a loser. And like I said, I fully accept that this woman's behavior was way, way, way to the extreme, and the family are well justified to bring this lawsuit. However, the argument stemmed over curly fries, and sometimes in de-escalation, we have to take the upper hand and just walk away and say, "My bad, I expected curly fries, they weren't there, I'm going to leave." Because I spoke to a friend of mine earlier who really specializes in threat assessment. And in saying or telling him the story today, I was really saying that in the year that we stand in, you do not know what is going to happen when you engage with someone in conflict. I think we'd all agree in the last 2 or 3 years, the world has gone very crazy and very extreme, and you do not know who you are up against. So sometimes taking the upper hand and saying, "My bad, clearly I'm upsetting you in some way, sorry, I didn't mean to do that, my fault," and walk away, take the upper hand, because there doesn't have to be a winner or a loser in this. And particularly in today's world, we don't know who we're up against. And this is some crazy woman who took it way, way to the extreme and discharges rounds in a vehicle over curly fries. So that was my second observation in this. There doesn't have to be a winner or a loser. The third thing that I found really interesting in this story is that the reason why the family are bringing the lawsuit, well, not necessarily the reason, but the reason why it hasn't been settled is that the owners of that Jack in the Box aren't willing to accept any responsibility for their employees' actions. They're saying, well, it was our employee. We can't be held liable for what our employee does. And my third point here is, why is it important to consider reputational risk? Because we heard in there that the woman has been incarcerated. She's out. Clearly, she's working in a Jack in the Box. So she's a woman of low financial means. So they're going for the deep pockets. They're suing the owners of a Jack in the Box. But interestingly, they haven't settled. They haven't managed to push them there. So what were they going to do? They were meeting their attorney outside the Jack in the Box. The reputational risk of this video being disclosed, everyone on LinkedIn is talking about this video. Everyone has seen this video. Everyone now knows the Jack in the Box where this occurred. I think it's really important as an organization, when adverse things happen, we really have to consider the optics and the reputational risk. And I'm not saying that we should straight away succumb to any lawsuit that gets passed against your organization. I'm not saying that, but I'm really saying consider the reputational risk, because I don't believe the owners of this Jack in the Box have really considered the reputational risk of this video now being released through discovery, and then the family going to the Jack in the Box and almost protesting, if you like, that they're not getting the answers, they're not getting the response that they want. So that was really interesting to me. So like I said, an incredible story. Not something that we're going to see that often, but it was a really interesting case for my segment in the news this week. So as always, if you need any risk management advice or assistance, my organization, Kingswood Security, would love to come alongside you or your organization. You can reach out to me at team@kingswoodsc.com. But for now, I will leave you with the argument over curly fries, which resulted in a firearm being discharged inside a vehicle. And as always, those are my comments and observations. What do you see when you see that story play out? What do you think about the family starting this lawsuit against the owners of the restaurant? And then also, what do you think about the reputational risk that the family go into the restaurant with their attorneys? Do you feel that the owners got it right, got it wrong? And are the family really just pushing for a settlement? As always, love to hear your views and comments. So for now, you take care, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.